Welcome to Knit and Crochet Beginner and Beyond. I would like to show you how to make a Tunisian stitch scrubby, also known as the Afghan stitch. While practicing crocheting, you could make a few of these, however many you want, put a bow on them. They make a nice gift. You could bundle them up with a washcloth or a soap holder. I have videos on how to make each one of these. So let's get started. How this is made is there's a chain and then accumulate stitches onto the Afghan hook and then make rows, and there's going to be a decrease increase row and then a regular row, and it's going to go all the way up. There's going to be 28 rows. The corners are going to be marked, and each time a row change, one of these markers will be on to help keep track of where it is in the project. And then I'm going to do these in a plain blue instead of the variegated. This is what you end up with, a nice little scrubby. This is about 3.5 inches across. It makes a nice just about 3.5. And you can either tie this or make however you want to finish it off. We'll get to that. So now I will show you what you're going to need. Okay, what you're going to need is a number 4 medium weight cotton yarn, 14 stitch markers, and 4, these are going to mark every other row, and then 4, one each for each corner. If you don't have stitch markers, you could use little pieces of yarn cut. A number 9 hook. This is to make the chain, because you want the chain a little bigger than the Afghan hook. And this is a number 8 Afghan hook, 10 inches long. So a 10-inch Afghan hook, a scissors, and a yarn needle. If you don't have a hook that's one size bigger, you could just loosely chain right onto the Afghan hook. So gather up your items and let's get started. Okay, so get your yarn and at about a foot, make a slip knot. And the reason we're having this long tail is we're going to sew the seam together with it. So make a loop, pinch it, pull this through the loop you made, and it'll look like that. Pull on this loop and the tail, and then put your number 9 hook in, or your Afghan hook if you don't have a hook that's one size bigger. Leave this a little bit loose on this first stitch because sometimes it gets too tight and it's hard to find it. And this is your working yarn, the one that goes to the ball. This one that's left over is a tail. So taking your working yarn, chain 14 on to this chain. So chain 14, pinch as you go up, move up, pinch, go over the hook, pull through. I crochet with yarn under. If you crochet yarn over, that's fine. That's how most people do it, is over. I have a wrist problem, so I always chain yarn under my hook. I'm under the yarn. This is yarn over the hook and yarn under. But you do your chain how you want. So count your chain. You have to count this first stitch down here. This is the number 1 stitch. And then there's the knot. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You don't count the one that's on the hook. So after I pull through that one, it's number 13. And then when I pull through again, that's number 14. So make your chain and I'll get back to you. Okay, now that you have your chain, you want to go into the second stitch chain. You want to go into the second chain from this hook. So the one that goes through that first one on the hook doesn't count. The one that the yarn is going through is your first stitch, and the one behind it is your second stitch. So it doesn't count. Here's number 1, there's number 2. So go into the top of number 2, which if you look, you have a top and a bottom and then a middle. So there's the top, here's the bottom, and there's the yarn going through the middle. So you want to go through the top and do that all the way down. I forgot to change hooks. Okay, so after you have your chain 14, change hooks and get your Afghan hook, because we're going to accumulate them onto here. So go into the second one, pull it through, and do this all the way down in the tops of each one of these chain that you made. And just keep them on the hook. So you can see here's your chain, and there's the ones that are in the chain. This chain's empty. This chain here, if you look at it, you can see that it's full. See, it has yarn going into it. So then go into the next one on the top, and then have it so it slides, and meet me at the end. Okay, now that you're getting close to the end, you want to make sure you get this very last stitch down here where the knot is. So we'll go into that one, and that one, and you can see you have 2 left. There's one there, and there's one there. Sometimes that last one is hard to see. It gets a little bit tight. You might even have to kind of coax it to go in between the middle and the top. So there you have your first row, your cast on basically. Then take a marker and put it in this where the knot was. This will be one corner. So put it right in there where the knot is. And then take another one. Actually, I wanted to make these red. Let's put those red. And we'll do the orange ones up the side. So we'll put a red one in here. And then go to the other side and put a red one over there. And you know where your beginning corners are. You can take and kind of straighten out your stitches. Now, grabbing your working yarn, we're going to make just a regular row. You do that by pulling one stitch through that bar, just one, and then the rest of them is going to be 2. Hang on down here so it doesn't get too tight, and then make sure you pull your yarn from the ball so it stays loose and your tension is on your fingers. If you need help with your tension, I have a video on that. You can go back and look at that. So pull 2 all the way across, pulling 2. And just kind of straighten up your work, and you can see you made a row there. Now you need to pick up all these bars. So you're going to go into here and pick up that bar. Go through, grab your yarn, pull through, go through the front bar only. You don't want to go all the way through the back like that. And there's, you can see there's a bar going up and a bar going. There's a back bar and a front bar. You want to go just in the front bar and leave that back bar in the back. So just pick up on your front bars only and accumulate this all the way onto your hook. We're only going to have 2 rows that change back and forth. And just kind of pull down, and then you get down here to the end. You have this one, and then the one that's right above your marker, right there. And you can verify by counting your stitches. You get to the end, you can go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. That's how many you started out with, and that's how many you're going to end up with. Okay, now this next one is going to be a decrease row. So instead of pulling through 1 at the beginning, you're going to pull through 2, and then grab an orange stitch marker and stick it right in that stitch right there, the very first bar. Hook that onto that bar. Then you're going to pull 2 all the way across to the end. And these are going to be the 2 rows that you're going to repeat back and forth until you have 28 rows. So now that you have decreased 2, you want to increase on this other side. So you're going to go around the hook and go straight down and go right in that front bar. And then straighten it up so it's even with your bars there, with your working piece, so it doesn't get too tight. Then grab all these front bars, going back, accumulate them all back onto your hook. And when you get down here, you have these 2 bars are the ones you're going to work. You have this one. And because I want the side of this to be a little more, what I want to say, organized, instead of just going through this front bar and leaving all these loose ends, I'm going to go through the front bar, through the next bar, and through the stitch that's behind, the one that I showed you, the behind stitch. So there's going to be 3 on here. Go over, pull through all 3 of those, then straighten up your work, and then you can verify 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So this was a decrease, increase row, this one with the marker on it. Now we're just going to do a regular row like the very first one that we did. Go through 1 and then 2 all the way across. Meet me at the end. Okay, now that we're down at the end, pull 2 under these bars, pull 2, that's your regular bar. This stitch right here is the one that you added in the last row. So you're going to pull 2 through that. This might feel a little awkward on that one. And then pull 2. And then straighten it all out. And now what you want to do is look, you have, that's the regular bar. This is the new bar that you made right here. It's got a front and a back. And then this is the edge. You want to go down and go directly into this one that you made. Make sure you pick that one up, because it kind of, if you just go like this and you look at it, it kind of hides behind that stitch. You might just go like that, and then you're going to be short 1 stitch. So make sure you pick up that stitch, And then even it up with your work, and then just go down and pick up all the other ones like normal. All the front stitches, all the way down to the other side. And meet me over there. Okay, now that you're getting close to the other end, you go to there, and then you're going to look at these bars. So these bars are down here in this row. These are the bars for this row here. So this one's kind of squat down in there. That's the actual bar right there. And we want to go through that bar and the back part, which once again just makes for a nicer edging. Straighten your work out, and you can verify 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. That's how you always know if you've picked up all your stitches. Okay, that was a regular row. Pull 2, put in your stitch marker, and if you have to take a break or you have to go do something, I suggest this is a good spot to mark your work. You put in this marker, and that way if you have to get up and go somewhere, when you come back and you look at it, you're like, okay, I pulled 2, now I'm going to pull 2 all the way across. And that's how you will know that. And that is what you're going to do right now, is pull 2 all the way across, and then I'll meet you at the other end. That's where we're going to add, we're going to go over the hook and add a stitch. So here we are at the other end. Just pull through like normal, then around your hook, because you're going to increase, because this was a decrease over here. You took 2 off over here. Well, 1 off. You pulled 2 and took 1 off, and you're going to add 1 over here. You're going to go around, you're going to go down and go right into that stitch right there, which is your normal first stitch, and then just pick up all the stitches all the way across again, and I'll see you at the other end. Okay, down at the other end, you have that marked. We're going to go through both those stitches and the one that's behind. So that's actually 3 stitches right there. You got that one, and that one. Pull through those. Straighten up your work. You can verify 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And then this next row is going to be the pull 1, and just go across normally, pulling 2 all the way over, and then come back. When you get down to this end, remember that you have to watch out for that one that this is your increase right here. Make sure you get that one. And then go in there and make sure you pick that up right there. Meet you at the end. Okay, I'm down to the other end where I'm pulling 2 to make a decrease. Remember to go all the way down, do your increase, and do 28 rows. And you're going to count your rows. You can kind of feel them, but each one of these lines, these bars, is a row. So you'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go all the way up. Stop at 27, I guess, because we're going to do 28. Stop at 27 and come back on. Okay, so now if you've made it to your 28 rows, you've counted all of your bars up to here. You went over and came back. So on your last row, you pull 1 and then go over. So we're going to just do the pull 1. Now we will have done that twice, because here's what pull 2 was here, and then your back and forth without the pull 2 was row 28, and this one's going to be the same as that row. So pull 1, and then do your regular pulling 2. And then when we get to the end, we're going to slip stitch back across. Make sure you get that one that was added. And now switch to your other hook. you're using another hook. Otherwise you'll just have kind of a tail flopping around with your big hook. Chain 1, and this is where you'll take a red marker and stick it over top of that chain 1. And then you're going to slip stitch, not on your edging, but the first bar. You go into the first bar and pull through both loops. Then go into the next bar and pull through both loops. And then the next and the next and the next, all the way across. And then stop when you get to the end. Now when you get to the other end, picking up your last slip stitches, go ahead and put your other red marker in this one, and then you can clip this off because this long tail down here is going to sew this together up here, so we can clip this off and tie it off. So go ahead and go through, pull this through, and then pull it through again and make a little knot there. Okay, so now that you tied your knot, what you want to do is have 2 strings, well, yarn that's longer, because you're going to gather these 2 outer edges. We're going to put the gather string in. We're not going to pull it yet, but we're going to stick it in there. And get your yarn needle. Just ignore this one right for now. Just keep that separate. That's going to sew up this side seam. So you have 2 separate yarns that are longer than this. Let me see, just to give you an idea. This one's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 inches. Is what I let out for mine, just in case you want to know an inch amount. This is going to be the top one, this is going to be the bottom one. What you're going to do is you're going to go into each one of these ends up here and weave it in and out. And you have the ones marked that have the orange markers on. Go through the orange marker and then go through the one that's in between the orange marker. And so I'm going to use this side as the part that I like, so it's going to be this way when I'm going to sew it together, and then when it gets sewed together it's going to be flipped out to be that way, and then that seam won't show. So if you're using this side as your good side, then we're going to sew it together this way, like this. So when you decide which side you want to use, you're going to sew the side you want to use in, like I said, and you want your strings to pull on the, you just want to use the inner strings. So when this gets flipped around, so say in mine, I'm going to use the bumpy side out. That's what I want. So I want these strings to pull just on the inside of my V's, because I don't want to go through both of them because it'll be too thick. So I'm going to just do the insides of each one of these V's. Go like that and just do all the way down, and then do this all the way down. You're going to weave it all the way down and then flip it over and take your other one and weave it all the way down. And after you get those woven in, come back. Okay, now that you have this side woven in and out and this side woven in and out, you can go ahead and take all these stitch markers out. Okay, now that you've decided which side you're going to use, put that side inside, and then we're going to whip stitch this together So you're going to have the strings that we're going to pull, the yarn we're going to pull, and then there was the long tail from the beginning, back at the very beginning. That's what you're going to use to whip stitch. So in my case, I want this to be my good side, so I'm going to sew it in, match up all of these 14 stitches here, and then put your needle onto this long tail that we saved, and then go through your first stitch here, and then go through the other stitch that was marked with the 2 red ones and pull those through. Then go ahead and you can see that these are all going to match up with each other. And a whip stitch is, you come right up over the top and then go into the next stitch and then go into that stitch and pull it kind of tight, and then go into the next stitch and do this all the way down till you get to the other end, and then pull a little bit tight each one that you do, and go into that stitch. And then when you get that all whipped up, come back on. Once you've made it down to the end, go ahead and make your knot. And tie that off. Then flip it over, and there you'll have your seam there. And then if you want to go back and tuck in some of the loose strings that you have here and there, you could do that. But let's say on this side here, you can take these red markers out because we're done with those. Then you just want to pull on your strings that you wove in and out to tighten this up. You can put your tails inside, or you can weave them, whichever you want to do. And then what I do is tie this up as tight as you can get it, and then make it into a bow so you could come back and work on it, because you're going to want to be shaping this. Go inside here and shape that, and it'll stretch out. You might want to tighten it up a little more. It's totally up to you. And then tighten up your other side. Take your stitch markers out and tighten up your other side and make the bow on it, and then come back. Okay, so after you've worked on it and you stretch it a little bit, because cotton is going to stretch. And if you have a big hole like that, then undo your bow. And just tighten it up again. Because like I said, it stretches out. And then take and pull that tight. See, it'll close up the hole. Depends on how closed you want the hole. I like mine really tight. So now this time I'm going to put my finger on there, and I'm going to make it into a knot. And then I'm going to do the other side, make it nice and tight, and make it into a knot. Then you can take your needle and stick it through those holes like that, so it's centered. And you can take and weave these tails that you have through to the other side if you want yours This is where you gotta make some more decisions. If you want yours to be sealed together, then go ahead and weave this tail back and forth, and then come out on the one side. You could tie this into a knot. You could, what I was doing was tying them into a nice knot up this far, and then they can be hung to dry. So you can end up like that. Or you could maybe even make them into a knot like this so you have a handle. If you don't want to make it a flat one, you could leave it like this. So that is how I make the Tunisian stitch scrubby. And they feel really nice. They really feel nice. So if this was helpful, subscribe, like, come back, watch my other ones, and thank you very much for watching.